This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello, and it is Eugene McFadden here. In the slot they've given me, as usual, got me pretty much hour and a half. Normally we are talking about autistic type things, but today it's going to be I Can't Believe You're a Teacher, aka the best of the Twitter beefs of the last year. We're going to be looking back at a selection of pointless arguments about how best to teach kids and everyone's egos. Ooh.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Yeah, I'm going to start that now. So joining me today are two vaguely normal people, or more normal than mutual guests. Sorry, Heather. Sorry, G. Daniel Bundred and Jasmine Lane, who may in fact be together or not together. I understand Jasmine is nipped out to buy some kind of artisanal, some kind of face cream. Anyway, but yeah, while they are both pretty amazing, and they are both, they're more normal than normal guests, but they do both, because they're so amazing, sit a little bit off the baseline. I think Daniel's into the studio. If he's going to click now on join us for a conversation, he has done that. Invite. Daniel, you there?
Hello, Eugene.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Yeah, pretty good. I have done some dumb things today, but that's pretty standard for a Saturday. So I'm now lying in bed with a cup of tea and a laptop and a radio show. So that's good. How are you doing today?
So I got up quite late today. I've just been doing some marking because we're currently on our round of PPEs, something that Jasmine's helped me out with. As you say, Jasmine is less often round my neck of the woods than she used to be. But evidently, there is a product that can only be bought on the north end of Shoreditch Park that she, has actually had to go out and buy. So she will be, she should be here already. Actually, I'm expecting her very, very soon.
What is this product? I mean, I'm like, it's nothing to do with a radio show, but I'm now like morbidly interested. Is it?
So it's some kind of olive oil face soap. I'm sure Jasmine will be able to tell you more about it, but evidently it is, in the way that one gets trapped into hipsterdom, it is the anchor that holds her to the de Beauvoir Whole Foods on Southgate Road.
Oh, right. Okay, that sounds like really expensive stuff, that which I would have no idea about at all. But
I'm sure it's not too expensive. They're it's not a cosmetic, it is a soap. I imagine it's more expensive. I have absolutely no idea about this. But yeah,
yeah.
it's a local grocery store, but you sort of know where I live, and our local grocery store is not necessarily what a local grocery store would be to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's not like the Londis in Neasden, for instance. No.
Yes, I haven't seen a Londis in many, many months.
I'm sure not. Okay, so last time you were on with me, we discussed how to make a sixth form truly academic, and how to turn your sixth form kids into like alpha predators, apex predators.
Apex predators, yeah.
Apex predators amongst the other, weak sixth forms, which we oddly enough got no complaints about. So I think today we're probably going to get some complaints, as we're going to talk about things kind of relevant to teaching. We're going to talk about Twitter arguments, Twitter beefs, and that amazing phrase that's been thrown at me a few times of "I can't believe you're a teacher," or "I can't believe you're a Senko," which
Yep.
Such is life. So for those of you who don't know about this kind of thing, there is Twitter, and on Twitter people make seemingly innocuous comments about teaching or about pupils or about something, at which point someone will pipe up, start an argument, and at some point will say, I cannot believe that you're a teacher, or I cannot believe, or the amazing phrase, you shouldn't be working with kids, which is a bit extreme, just a bit.
I really like it when they threaten to contact your employer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, other people you get blocked and reported, but you're a teacher, blocked, reported, I'm going to contact your employer, and it's just a bit
Yes.
like, wow,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
As though, and I think these people really do consider themselves school allies, and they do have a vision that teaching is important. So I don't know why they want to use up the time of my head teacher so endlessly with, adjudicating fights on Twitter.
well, they think, because again, people think Twitter's the real world, when in
Mm.
fact it isn't. But you get sucked into things, don't you?
Be a very disturbing real world if the real world was anything like Twitter.
Yes, I mean, Elon Musk would be like the most powerful man in the world. And
I believe that's his plan on Mars.
is that the plan of Mars? That's quite a good plan. I can see him. Yeah. Oh, is that a door opening?
Yes.
Is that Jasmine? See, if we timed it better, we'd have like a kind of like some canned laughter now, or a round of applause, like an American sitcom.
Yes, unfortunately, it's not actually Jasmine entering my flat.
Is it the
It was
Fonz?
me opening a door. Sorry?
Oh, I thought it was the Fonz coming in then, but no.
Mm.
Ah, well. So when was the last time someone threatened you with, well, someone said to you, I can't believe you're a teacher?
It was a few weeks ago, and it was a really interesting one. So it was on the question of who is and isn't a teacher. Um,
Oh, that one.
yes, yeah, that was a notable Twitter beef. The ontological question of teacherdom. I particularly liked the threats in that case with we're going to find your employer and tell your employer. It's like my employer knows that I consider myself a teacher. They employ me as such.
Yeah, people just don't quite get that one, do they? But yeah, I remember that one. I mean, I could see both points of view on that one. And I'm a bit undecided, but I think contacting your employer to tell your employer that you think you're a teacher and teachers should teach was a
Yes,
bit out there.
teachers are those who are employed by a school to teach,
Yeah,
which is a view I have to say that is shared by my employer.
your employer sounds very heretical, or possibly
Yes,
extreme. Must be a trad employer. Who knows?
yes, an employer with a desire to staff a school
Teachers.
with people who are teachers. Yes.
Yes. That they also decided to have kids taught in this school.
Yeah.
Oh, just such complete madness. We also got the famous, well, to be fair, Macintosh against just about everyone at some point or another. I think her most recent one was Macintosh versus Hitchens, which was preceded by Macintosh versus Hitchens, which was preceded by Macintosh versus Hitchens. But I think the most recent one of that I actually got involved in as well. And Peter Hitchens told me I hadn't actually read his article, and I had, and then he wouldn't believe me and refused to respond to me. But there we go.
Yes, the idea that having read his article, you can also then go on to disagree with the article,
Yes,
which is
'cause-
for a man whose sort of conception of the world is as limited as Peter Hitchens, that does follow logically.
yeah. I mean, he was like, "You haven't read the article." I was like, "I have read the article. I've literally spent and lose no £10 to join the Daily Mail for a day to read the article, to then deactivate the account and just burn the entire email account as well, just so I could argue on Twitter because it was quite a slow day." And he just couldn't get the idea that he was wrong, which, and then all those little kind of minion people turned up and started going, "Are you a teacher? Well, I want you to teach in my school." And it's like, well, okay, fine, cool.
My favourite one is people who don't have kids at all. One of the so obviously, recently, it was asked how I could possibly be a teacher because of my belief that teachers teach. Um, but years ago, probably the first thing that I tweeted that got very, very big was my criticism of Michael Rosen. And it wasn't, it wasn't very severe criticism. I do like Michael Rosen. He was a lecturer in the university I did my teacher training in. I think that he has absolutely inspired loads of kids to read. Uh, I simply said that children's literature was, not significant in the world of literature. Not only did I get loads of people demanding that I be fired for this heretical belief, and saying that I couldn't possibly be a teacher, I got people who seemed to think that I had been their teacher in the 1980s. People who were in school long before I was born, um, but who had such a grudge against their own teacher that they would continually mete it out on all teachers for all eternity to be damned not only as their teacher, but for generations of teachers hence.
Which, when you say it out loud like that, it's a bit extreme.
Mad.
Well, maybe mad. I mean, you use that word. I didn't use it. Um, I'm sure the Teach Talk Radio lawyers are listening right now with a slight twitchiness, just in case we say anything off piste again. I'm wondering if we're going to get to that point whereby we release it, it gets edited to basically me going, "Hi, Teach Talk Radio. I'm joined by," and then it's the outro, which actually is actually be quite a cool thing to have happen. That's a kind of life aim
Well,
there,
it
right?
wasn't, I wasn't the person who got you in trouble last time. It was Jasmine Lane, who is now back in the flat.
Oh, excellent. Jasmine, are you there?
I'm here.
Excellent. How are you?
I'm good. I just came back from the shop. I have my artisanal olive oil soap that I can only find about 3 blocks from here. I also got some expensive cheese and some weird biscuit sort of thing. So whenever you're ready to eat, Daniel, we can.
That'd be fantastic. A snack to tide us over till dinner.
Oh, that sounds amazing. What are you two going to do for dinner?
We're going to a local restaurant, Burberry Q, under the railway arches by Haggerston Station. It's quite a small place and very popular, which meant that we needed a reservation, but our reservation is really late.
Ooh. I'm going to have an omelette for
So
dinner.
we needed a snack to tide us over. We haven't had lunch. As I said, when we joined, I'd only just got up.
Oh, I've never laid in that. Well, now that I've got young kids, wake me up quite early in the morning. And annoyingly, we've got chickens. Not annoyingly, but we bought chickens when they were quite small. Bought 5 of them. 3 of them are roosters.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do they crow synchronously or asynchronously?
No, there's only one of them that crows, and he crows really loudly. And he came out today really irritated at me because he basically I let him out late, and it's quite funny. My partner goes out to let him out late. He basically chases her, but if he came out running towards me, stopped, almost like comically skidded before me, and then backed off. And I was like, "Ha!"
He
There
didn't
we
want
go.
to take you in a fight.
He didn't. And the other one he's scared of is daughter number 3, who keeps picking him up by the neck. So possibly that's an issue. But daughter number 3 is a little kind of. I love her, but she's a little thug. Maybe that's why I love her so much. I don't know. So, Jasmine, you've got your artisanal soap.
Yep. Sorry, I'm just sitting in the guest room, just laughing at the synchronous roostering one, but then also just like my daughter just keeps picking it up by the neck.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got my 3 daughters are all very, very different, and daughter number 3 is like a barbarian. She's got my muscle tone. She's incredibly strong and just doesn't take rubbish from fools, which I really like, and that's how I've raised her to be.
But when I came back and you guys were talking about, were you on the who counts as a teacher spat that happened over the
We
course
were.
of months?
Yes. Yeah, the one that followed on from the Campaign for Evidence-Informed Teaching and the Education Alliance spat.
You mean Teal, the group that's called the same name
A
as the Multi
multi-academy
Academy
trust, yeah.
Trust?
They did
Oh,
rename that fairly quickly after the CEO of Multi Academy Trust pointed that out. But it was something that, actual
If they
classroom
were
teachers would
actual,
know.
yeah,
Yeah,
if
because
they
we
were
do
actual
tend to know
classroom
about
teachers,
schools.
they wouldn't have done that exactly. So it's like this just proves that you guys aren't teachers because none of us would have done that. I've only been in the UK for a year, and even I know that Teal exists.
Yeah, the total, we're educators, but we don't actually have any current knowledge of schools is and sort of, what is the point of you then?
yeah.
I mean, this is an interesting thing though. Like if you're I don't know if you guys are following at all, but like the Lucy Calkins debate over like whether or not to teach phonics in the States, like she and people that also make money from selling programs that don't teach children to read, they all wrote an article basically telling a journalist like we are educators and we care about children reading. This is like none of you guys are teachers and you all make money from selling this shit program doesn't teach kids to read. But then actual classroom teachers responded, and it was like 650 actual chalk-based teachers were like, "Hey, we think your programs are horrible too. It's not just a journalist thing." So
Ah,
that that what's said on the ground basically that kind of makes it not everyone that's a chalk-based teacher is going to agree, but we all are aware of each other's points. So like something like I don't know, the teal thing was just interesting. I'm like, you're just saying what they said, except you just didn't feel included because you're not a teacher, which is the point.
No, I sort of one of the things I really loved in that letter was the description of not only them as educators but as literary giants.
Oh yeah,
Like, yeah, four,
literary
four
greats.
literary greats. Four of them have written, children's books that, and obviously children's fiction, which got me into trouble with Michael Rosen. It isn't really the bulk of my reading material, but absolutely people I'd never heard of. People I'd never seen my students reading.
My thing is people that make money from selling those programs. That's like put my Marxist lens on. That's the first thing I see. I'm like, oh, why do you want this program in school so bad? Oh, because you rake in millions and millions of dollars a year, millions and millions and millions.
Yeah, they seem like primary reading programs always sound like they must be really overpriced because I can't see how you could get that rich from selling something. The whole word's reading strategies are just really obvious. I can't see why you'd need training in not teaching children how to read. I can
Yeah,
not
it's not
teach
even
children how to read right now, and I've had no training.
there's loads of
yeah,
secondary school
it's
teachers who can't teach children to read. Um,
yeah, because
oh,
it's not a normal part of your training. It's just like you
no,
expect. All right, they've learned how to read in primary school. Now I can teach them my subject, and I'm like, mate, they still have to be able. They have to know how to read in your subject because reading geographically, sorry, reading historically is different than reading in literature. It's just different.
yeah. Geographically,
Yeah, and it's where you get the complexity where we're way beyond phonics. Although, of course, there are elements. Any secondary school, any uh, truly mainstream secondary school, true comprehensive, will have some students who never picked up phonics as well.
yep,
And they
36.
just need more time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we have oh, Jasmine, we should really do a one of these on like reading in secondary school, like good reading strategies and good like systems. Um,
Sure, I can do that. I wasn't
yeah,
able to. Oops, never mind. I was just going to say something about my current employer, so never mind. Um,
no,
yes, I can do that.
yes, yeah, because I've got a really good system at my place now, which is at least I don't know, 30%, 25% is stuff I've stolen from you. Um,
Oh, well, look at that. See, someone realizes that I'm valuable.
oh, you are like, yeah, you are invaluable, and you can believe me that because I'm not very good at doing two layers of conversation. So um, so when was the last time someone said to you, Jasmine, I can't believe you're a teacher?
Probably when oh my God, when I said, the reason was I don't like trauma informed and like sometimes you have to think about the greater good.
Yeah,
Um, I was like, sometimes you just need to exclude a few kids because they just can't cope, and it's about the other 999. And I got that was basically it. It was like I can't believe like a teacher would say something like this. Well,
Teaching in mainstream is leading the mainstream is about economics. It is about, and that's, we are in a
yeah, it's
setting.
it's utilitarianism. That's what I
Yeah,
said, and then someone said like they invoked like the Equality Act, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That has nothing to do at all with what I've just said. So like, yeah, that was
I'm really surprised that you weren't. There wasn't a question raised as to are you even a teacher about your belief that you should teach children poetic form before asking them how they feel about poetry. I always find most of the "Are you a teacher?" questions come from your stated belief that you should teach children things. Certainly, that's my personal experience.
yeah, I've seen that a few times. But yeah, so I did it. We're teaching these kids these things. Are you a teacher? But I did your blog, Jasmine, about what was it? Your blog about just telling them facts, tell
just
them
tell
things,
them the things.
just
Tell
tell
them
them
the
the
things they
things.
need to know.
Yeah, and I was expecting more pushback from that, but it's so true. It's like I'm not going to play
There
like
has been pushback, but not directly. There's been like someone has been commissioned to write a blog on something about beauty of poetry or something, and I'm like, look, all of that is good and well. Not every kid cares, and also, what are you actually teaching them to appreciate poetry? That's not what we do. That's not what the study of literature is. It's not appreciation. It's not a book club.
no. I mean, I've got book clubs for that, but if they're in the English
Exactly.
section,
It's different.
yeah, they are learning a particular like set of knowledge that will apply in exam context. Sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what I'm judged on.
And the appreciation analogies that are always made is, you do need to know art history in order to go into a art gallery. Do you need to know a musician's work in order to enjoy a concert by them? It is fine in any of those analogies if you leave having learned nothing. It is not fine in our jobs if you leave having learned nothing.
It's like I had a fun lesson. Did you learn anything? I really appreciated the book. Did you learn anything? No.
No, someone
No,
someone was
absolutely.
saying
Our job is not to entertain them. It is not about their enjoyment. It is about their learning, which is a reasonably concrete, accessible notion.
Apart from back in the dark days when it was about entertaining them. But let's never talk about those days again.
no, there was one woman. I mean, the thing is, like, I say what I say, and then they're like, "Well, don't you think about this?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I did think about that, and this is why I don't care about it. Like, I'm quite to the point now, to the matter of fact." But one woman, she was like, "Well, even if you fail, I think it's about the experience of failing. Like, makes you want to do it more. Like,
No, it
that's what
doesn't.
one woman." I'm like, no, it doesn't. It makes you want to stop because you don't like failing. She's like, "We have to teach
No,
them that not
the
everything is about
experience of
winning."
failing in English is the experience of not you want to do it more, you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
It's just
like,
like
what are you on? Like, who says, she's like, I'm not very good at ballet, but I keep doing it because it's about the experience. I'm like, I would hate to do that and to feel like a failure and suck at something every day. I think
and,
most people feel.
and that's what damages kids at school is those kids that come to school and they struggle because they're not being taught in the correct way. Maybe the classroom's not set up for them, maybe it's too chaotic, whatever. Maybe they're not being taught phonics properly, who knows? And like day after day they see other kids getting it, they don't get it, and that's damaging.
Yeah,
That's proper
that's what I said like
damaging.
in my blog. I was like, you tell them that one, English isn't for you, you just can't get it, and you cannot enjoy literature because you just can't welcome into the gates of Englishdom. That's what they're saying. I'm like, no, it's
Yeah.
not a guessing game. There are things that I can tell you, and then you can practice them, or I can ask you questions and you can apply it. And then when you see it somewhere else, then you apply it there. Like that's how you get better at English, isn't just by having a knack for it. And that's the problem that I think a lot of teachers they've never actually failed at anything before.
Yeah.
Um, and so they don't know like it actually is not fun to fail and to feel stupid. And that's when I was first doing physics at uni. That was actually the first time that I ever failed at anything. I was just like, I'm working really hard and I'm just not getting it, and I don't know why. And I mean, I did pass the class, but I basically it was a pity pass, is what I call it. Because I went and tried to get help. He basically was like, I'll just give you the credit, but I did not pass that class. And I hate like I like physics, but I don't want to ever go near another physics class again. I love the idea of science, and I'm like, that class made me hate it because I just felt so stupid. And that's what I always think of. I'm like, what can I do to make sure that they don't feel stupid, that they can actually see, okay, I saw why I got it wrong, and now I need to do this. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. And if if you teach them before you assess them, it's one of the conversations we had in our last radio show. If you teach them before you assess them, you create something in which they can experience success quite early,
Yes.
and the experience of success is self-reinforcing. You know, having done quite well, it allows them to do better and better and better. If you reverse that and you start by assessing them, which an astonishing number of sixth forms do, they assess very early, having not taught them the content properly that they're assessing them on. Your immediate response as a student is that your association with the subject is with failure. And realistically, at GCSE, we have to assess, and they're going to be assessed. If you haven't taught them, their association is going to be that of failure. And even those questions, how do you feel about something? Students experience that as a form of assessment. They are looking for an answer. They don't believe, because nowhere is it true, that all its answers are equally valid. And if they don't have a particular feeling about that, they failed the assessment.
yeah, thinking like, I've seen some schemes where it will be like, do you think this is a good example of the poem? Why or why not? Or like, what do you like about the poem? And I'm like, what does that have to do with
A good
anything?
example of
They're
the
just,
poem.
they're looking.
How many poems do they know?
Yeah, I'm like, but also I'm just like, they are expecting like, well, I mean, I think poetry's dead. Is like, I'm like, is that like a wrong answer? Like, you know what I mean? Just like, what am I actually assessing with that? And it's like, I'm not. I'm asking their opinion, which ultimately doesn't really.
It's, it's,
It sounds bad. It's like it doesn't for what I'm going to be assessing them on. It doesn't matter if they think it's good or not. They just need to
yeah.
know it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
time
it's
filling.
the English language question. How does the writer structure this text to interest you as a reader? It is not acceptable for any student to answer that the writer does not interest me as a reader. The
But it's
text
true.
never interests me as a reader.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just.
you have to fake an emotional response. And there's no point in that. There's no point in asking for that emotional response.
That's the kind of thing if you put it on Twitter, that'll get you cancelled.
Yeah,
Right
Oh,
there, that
absolutely.
statement
Tell
right
me
what
there.
should
I'm a
I
teacher.
tweet? I could do it now. What do I need to tweet?
Daniel says that there's no point having emotional responses to literature in a lesson, in teaching.
There's no
Or
point. There's no point asking them about their emotional response if they don't have an emotional response, and it's fine not to have an emotional response. It is fine for them to not actually think English is the subject that really, really, truly engages and inspires them and makes them passionate. I hope there is a subject in school, but realistically, there is a 1 in 10 chance that the subject you teach is the child's favourite subject. Assuming all of your colleagues are equally competent across your school, they're equally good, they're equally engaging, there is a 1 in 10 chance that this is the subject that they truly love above all others.
Yeah, I don't
So,
think that that's a
why are we building our
reasonable.
curriculum as though that's true?
Yeah, it's not a reasonable. It's not that's not the word. Like that's not something you can really measure. Like in
No.
time, like I created the most people that love reading. Like how can you measure that?
they could be
Like
lying to you.
I read like when I was quite young, and then I stopped reading in like middle school and high school, so I got busy. And then even when I started my English degree, I wasn't reading outside of my classes because I was reading for my course. And I really didn't start picking up reading again until I was, I don't know, 20, when I was basically done with school. So I was like 24, 25. And I'm like, so they did create a love of reading, I guess, but it doesn't seem like that was their actual goal because they wouldn't have been able to measure it because it didn't happen until 8 years after I finished their course.
Yeah, the love wasn't manifested there and then. Um, and I sort of think that there are kind of ways where you could measure um, engagement and joy. I'm always interested in how many teachers on Twitter will say that GCSE English is killing the love of the subject. Because our experience is that, A-level take-up is a nice metric, and our A-level take-up is greater than that in our subject of our surrounding schools, and massively in excess of most of the schools I talk to. Certainly all of the schools that are saying that it is the assessment that kills the subject.
Well, is it a failure of assessment that kills a subject?
I think that's more likely to be correct. And the sense of not actually knowing what to do in the subject. Because there is something quite nice, sort of quite zen-like about having something where you can enter a flow state because you really know what it is that you're doing,
Yeah.
rather than this experience of sort of cliff faces of emotive and empathic register that you're not necessarily going to get.
I think, yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I think looking at my own teaching, I'm really good at sticking kids in flow states because I always break things down and I teach English like a PE teacher. But I don't think we talk enough about how important flow state is for teaching, which is us completely off topic and not at all talking about getting banned from Twitter, but quite interesting in that kind of like way. That's a good point. We should probably do the news now as well. That's probably a good point to do the news and like do some like random tweets linked to this. So I'm going to press the news button and that gives us approximately,
This show is brought to
I don't know, an amount of time. I can't tell how long it is. I reckon 5 minutes. Grab a cup of tea.
Okay.
You can grab some like cheese and biscuits, maybe some wine, and go from there.
Wine's already
Cool.
Okay.
Of course, wine's already there. Of course it is.
Sorry, we're picking up each other. If you grab the white from the fridge, and brilliant, I'll also put a coffee on.
Cool. I will. I'm going to press play now.
partnership with John Catt Educational, a leading publisher of books, directories, educational guides and magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. Have you checked out their latest releases? Don't miss out! Visit johncatbookshop.com to explore their full range of titles and advance your own professional development today. Happy reading!
This episode of Teachers Talk Radio has been made possible with support from Witherslack Group, the UK's leading provider of SEN education and care. They're here to support you too through an ever-growing offer of free resources, including webinars, podcasts, articles, and events aimed at supporting teaching professionals like you. Visit their website at www.witherslackgroup.co.uk to find out more. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
ITV News reports on the workload of educational psychologists in Gateshead, who say they are overwhelmed as the number of children needing special educational help has risen by 117% in 8 years. This has placed a strain on SEND services in the area, but the load has been especially large for EPs. Deborah Mason, service manager for SEND in Gateshead, said that there had been a wait for some people to complete their doctorate, although assistant ed psychs have been used to enhance the team. This report comes shortly after the Secretary of State for Education in England, Gillian Keegan, sent a message to the education and care sector about SEND reform. In the message, Ms. Keegan said she believed that pupils and students should always be able to get a high-quality education and receive the right support. She acknowledged the challenges of a complex system, but said that her department wanted to take time to listen to children and parents, as well as those in the system, before publishing a response to the SEND and Alternative Provision Green Paper. An improvement plan would be published in the new year, she added. Part of the plan would include investing £21 million into training 400 more educational psychologists. For young people in areas like Gateshead, this funding can't come soon enough. The BBC News website reports on claims that the University of Derby has suspended a student for taking her baby into lectures. The female student is halfway through a degree, and a tutor had agreed to her taking her son to lectures as a short-term measure, but this was later overruled. As the student was breastfeeding, she felt she had no option to continue, but was suspended 2 weeks ago. The student believes she has been discriminated against because she has a baby, but stated she had never allowed her son to disrupt the learning of others. A university spokesman said areas were available on campus for those who needed to breastfeed, but that taking a baby or child into lectures was not allowed for health and safety reasons. Meanwhile, Ulster University has defended itself against claims that it plans to open a campus in Qatar and that will have a negative impact on LGBTQ rights. The university is due to open the campus in Doha in January next year. Speaking on BBC Radio Ulster, Hannah McCulloch, chair of the LGBT Society on the university's Coleraine campus, said she is worried that the university is putting financial gain over a community within their community, and that it will damage the establishment's reputation. A spokesman for the university said, Ulster University believes that education is a route for societal growth, and that many UK universities had partnerships with countries across the Middle East. In Wales, the government has announced free Welsh lessons will be extended to the entire education workforce, including non-teaching staff. Alongside this, a new framework for Welsh in English medium schools has been published, underlining how the Welsh language is integral to the new curriculum for Wales. A sabbatical course is also available for teachers to learn or improve their Welsh. Minister for Education and Welsh Language, Jeremy Miles, said, "We want everyone to enjoy using the Welsh language. We are ambitious for our language, and I am pleased to be able to extend the offer of free Welsh lessons to all school staff." Finally, in a week that saw the release of Department for Education statistics, which show a 20% drop in those entering the teaching profession, many media outlets comment on the possible impact on young people. The number of entrants to initial teacher training fell from 36,159 to 28,999 between 2021 and 22 and the 2022 to 23 training years. The government attributed the fall to the reduced number of new entrants and an increase in the target. But critics pointed out that the government's recruitment targets for secondary school teacher training has been missed in 9 out of the last 10 years. A DfE spokesperson said, "For teacher trainees in 2023, bursaries and scholarships in key subjects will be available, and we remain committed to raising the starting salary to £30,000. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, did you get a bargain on Black Friday? This week I'm going to talk about deals. First, a little bit of history. Tom will be proud of me. Reading up on Wikipedia and seriously condensing what I found, the term Black Friday refers to the Friday after Thanksgiving when the Christmas shopping season starts. Supposedly, it started in the 1950s. Recently, it marked a time of serious bargains, riots and fighting for unbelievable deals. However, are you getting a bargain or are you just led to believe it? Seeing as last Friday was Black Friday, which began last Monday, and next week will still be Black Friday, or for some stores Cyber Monday or Cyber Week, when you get the best deals online, how do you know a price drop is actually a deal? Well, the short answer is you don't. I have a couple of pointers here that may help you, but the underlying advice is buyer beware. If I go with the best known online retailer, when using Amazon, there's a nifty little price tracking website called Camel. This will show you the price data for a product over the time it's been advertised. You can see when it was more expensive and less expensive. If you're on your phone, where most shopping takes place, hit the share icon found next to the product image, go to Camel and paste it into the search box. You can even sign up to email alerts for price drops and add target discount alerts if you're not in a desperate hurry for an item. The next trick is to simply do a web search for the product. You may find it cheaper in a large supermarket store, and although you may need to go and collect it to save on postage, it may be worth the journey. There's also hundreds of coupon and price comparison sites where you may be able to find further discounts. The only caveat being the time you spend researching may actually outweigh the saving you make. I return to my initial warning. Buyer beware. I hope you get a deal leading up to the holiday season. As always, I'd love to hear your favourite shopping online tips. Let us know at TTR 2022. I'm Steve Woods, and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Well, that's it. Oh, look, we're back. We're back into we're back away from the 2 Minute Tech and the news and everything else. And I've realised that I have no idea who the Education Secretary actually is. Spot quiz, Daniel and Jasmine. Who is our Education Secretary?
I forgot.
It's not Justin Greening, is it? It's
Gillian
Keegan.
Yeah, who's she? Who is she?
The most recent Education Secretary. I don't know. I sort of lose track of them. You just sort of you hear that there's a new one, and then there's a new one after that.
Yeah, it's like a bus.
She's only been there since the 25th of October, so it's just been over a month.
That's quite long now.
That's a long service.
Yeah.
Who was the one we had who was there for a couple of days?
Don't know.
She was the one that refused to accept the. Basically, she was going to get like a lifetime benefit for like having served in government, and then she was like, "I refuse. I'm just going to donate it." That one.
Yeah. So the severance package, she donated to charity.
That's the word, severance.
Was that Liz Truss? Was she doing that?
No, it was. It was either under Liz Truss's government, I think. I'm trying to think if anyone in the responses could
tell us.
Tell us,
because
again, like, this is my memory of this, and it's one of those things you remember things that are important to you. Was it not Kit Malthouse? Nadeem Zahawi?
Maybe.
Since Gavin, in fact, yeah.
It wasn't him. He wasn't the last one.
Michelle Donnellan was the one who served for 2 days. So since Gavin Williamson, who I think we do all remember because he served for about 2 years, there's been Nadeem Zahawi, Michelle Donnellan, James Cleverly, Kit Malthouse, and Gillian Keegan.
I forgot James Cleverly. I forgot him completely.
Yeah, no,
he was actually appointed.
Whatever the opposite of nominative determinism is James Cleverly.
Ooh, nominative non-determinism?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Nominative opposition.
Nominative opposition, maybe, yeah. So
nominative incongruity.
Ooh, I like that. I'm going to steal that one and use it when I'm teaching. So we're meant to be talking about like Twitter briefs, but we've actually ended up talking about actually teaching.
We could talk about a Twitter brief and talk about that because there was one thing where Daniel said that London was better than everywhere else. In terms of schools.
But
that was savage.
That one we went, everywhere else exists to serve us, and I was like, it makes someone sound like a vampire or some kind of evil lord, like. But at the same time, London schools are better than like schools elsewhere in the country. That's true. Can we not say that? It's a fact.
It is something that is quantifiable. Tweet it, you will get cancelled.
I'm going to tweet it right now. Where's my who's going to tweet it first?
I've already done it.
I've already done it.
Have you already done it? Yeah,
it was
Eugene.
So I'm going to
what is I said that I found Progress 8 and league tables useful, and I said that. I mean, even if parents deserve to know
better than everyone else.
I'm like, but it was like parents deserve to know how their school is doing. It's the same thing when I was in the States, and it's just like, is my kid reading? And teachers will just lie and say yes.
Yeah.
Like, you need to know, like, this is the value add that my school adds is nothing or negative. And it's just like, okay, if you are negative, then what are you doing to change that? Or what can I expect?
I don't think it's, even necessarily that teachers are lying. I think they genuinely believe this. And what Progress 8 does is it tells you whether their beliefs are correct.
Yeah,
Um,
I
you
didn't
know,
mean teachers here
yeah,
lying. I do mean the fact they will literally just say, like, the test is telling me that they can't read, but like I really know your child. They're okay. They're making progress. They're literally just lying. They really are lying.
Why are
I
American
don't
teachers
know.
so bad?
no, I like Progress 8 and I like ALPS. I like all of these quantitative tools because they tell me whether what I am doing is working, whether we are on the right track, whether our beliefs about ourselves are matched with the reality of ourselves.
I agree, and I think that Progress 8 is the most effective score. I think it's not a perfect score, but it's the best score, and London schools do better on Progress 8. And we can talk about all the money in London more if you want to. But you're looking at the last set of GCSE results, which were real GCSE results, and let's be honest, rest of the country did worse than London. That's a fact. I think that's
There
what
were
I
some
think.
places outside of London that did do better than some schools in London. I will say
Yeah,
that.
But
But
on
it's
average,
by
yeah.
far it's average,
yeah,
maybe
by
even
average,
So
median, to be honest.
the
Even the
Midlands
median.
did.
yeah,
Bits of the Midlands did really well. So of the top 10 schools, you've got 3 that are run by Star Academies, and one Heartlands, which is also in Birmingham. So that kind
And
of
then the
area
other
had
ones
some
are
schools that
London.
really outperformed. Yeah,
The
yeah.
top 10, the rest are in London. Yeah.
But you're looking at again cities like schools in large cities doing
Yep,
better
that's
than
the
schools.
thing. There's
yeah,
Yeah,
jobs in the
absolutely.
city, so people go to the city, so therefore there's more money because there's people. Like that's how it
yeah.
works.
It
There's
is.
also
Yeah,
something that Robert Pondisio said when we were talking about success academies, which is that New York can run a chain like Success Academies where they have really bright teachers who they burn out quite quickly because New York has so many graduates. There's always a supply of fresh teachers. Well, Birmingham has 4 universities. London has uncountable numbers of universities. The same kind of thing can work in London and Birmingham. And it really can't work if you don't have that continual supply of an educated workforce who might not necessarily view teaching as a job for life, but will do it for a time very enthusiastically and work very hard at it.
yeah. I think that's an untalked about thing in education is large cities have more disposable staff who are very eager. Um,
And it's one of the things that, in terms of really successful schools, composition of workforce is a really interesting thing to talk about. My experience looking at the really top performing schools, and I haven't been able to visit Michaela,
I mean, we,
but
we all
I've
agree that
visited a few.
Michaela is the reason why
They're
London's
really
doing so
young.
well, isn't it?
Yeah, without Michaela, none of us would have any idea of what to do, actually. She that school led the way, not any of the art schools or, Dixon's or
Yeah, it's interesting. Michaela went to Art King Solomon Academy, another London school, basically with a sheet of tracing paper. Um, and that is the Michaela model. It already existed. King Solomon were doing it, Globe were doing it, but also schools like Mossbourne were doing it. Uh, and that kind of thing was spread out around London and local to me as well. I live in Hackney, so we've got Mossbourne, we've got City Academy Hackney, which last time I looked was 7th highest in the country. Um, we've got a bunch of those schools that are really outperforming, doing very much the same sort of things. But one of the things they do rely on is a staff team who are typically really quite young and
Yeah,
they're young. I can't remember who it was who said about King Solomon Academy a while ago. Um, uh, what she seemed to observe was that none of the teachers had families. In fact, none of them were actually in relationships.
that's a bit worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit worrying, but
No,
I
I don't know
sort
if
of think
worrying is
about
the
them.
word. I think it's at that point in your career, if you're going to work in this type of school, then therefore it means these sort of
Yeah.
things. Or if that's the give and the pull. I don't know if it's worrying to say like, oh, I'm not in a relationship, therefore it's like maybe just like you don't feel like spending the time doing it because it does take time. You just want to devote the time to your career. So
Oh,
I think that's more.
I think it's very interesting that the founders of ARC were Marshall and Weiss, hedge fund managers, um, or big fund managers, and the description of how the very young, very hard-working staff team who are burnt out quite early. And I don't know whether this is true across. Obviously, ARC's grown over the years, and I know one of the things that's changed about ARC is they can no longer be as ARC as they were in their foundational years.
No longer
But
art
this
They
is the
startups.
can't
way,
burn and
yeah,
turn
this,
anymore in
yeah,
the same way.
yeah,
Yeah,
but this is the way that top banks have always worked. This is
and law firms.
yeah, and law firms, absolutely. You take the best graduates, you pay them a huge amount, which obviously we can't do in education, and then you just assume that you're going to be cutting them in half every year until 3 years on, you've got a quarter of your original starting staff, but they're ready to be moved on into management.
And they're also like slightly damaged. Um,
Yeah.
from
Damaged, and then they'll inflict that damage on the new generation of staff.
Yeah,
That kind of thing with consultants talking to junior doctors as though the way they're working is just a sort of form of hazing that you need to endure. I endured it too. That's the path to being a true doctor.
yeah. You've got to be so
I think
tired
there are
of reading.
some things about some top performing schools that can be like that.
When I said worrying earlier on, it was just that kind of like, to be a top performing school, do you need to have basically young staff who haven't got lives?
I don't think
And
because
then it's like,
you not necessarily. It depends what your systems are like and how much of a
yeah,
time suck they are. Because if you just have stuff that wastes time,
mm,
it's just like I'm going to enter in 50,000 logs today for things that didn't actually get followed up. Like that kind of thing is
but
what
that,
kind of grinds
If
me.
nothing's
yeah,
followed up, you'll never be a top performing
yes,
school.
yeah,
And
Well,
we had
yeah,
this conversation last night, which is that when we look at schools that are top performing, the thing they all have in common actually is really good behaviour.
yes,
The thing they don't
hmm
necessarily have a certain amount of teaching proficiency or certainly subject knowledge. We've all talked about, and I'm not going to name schools here, but we've all talked about schools that are very high performing that we've been into and we've talked with them. And we've been slightly underimpressed by how much their teachers know about the
actually
subjects
no.
they teach.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Uh, and English, I don't know whether it's true of other subjects, it's probably worse in other subjects. There are an awful lot of English teachers who really don't know a huge amount about literature.
yeah. I'm one of
Um,
them.
yeah. Yeah,
I can,
you could do very well in some of the country's top performing schools,
I probably can, because I'm a very large male with a loud voice.
and you're very good on behaviour. I mean,
Yes, this
you
is it.
wouldn't see your wife and kids ever again, but
Well, that's why I moved down to
if you're
Cornwall.
willing to make that sacrifice,
Hmm, I'm not anymore. I used to be. I used
yeah,
to make the
we
sacrifice
all
quite
used to
happily.
be,
Yeah,
and
I,
that's
I,
the
I will
thing.
say, I think it depends what your priorities are. If you're someone who your priority is to like raise a family, and then probably a school where you do need to work a bit longer to get stuff done isn't this kind of school for you. But it's always about it's about, I said this, I mean, I think when I first met you, Daniel, or when we first became friends, and it was like what charter schools do in the States is basically things are better for students because they're so bad for staff. Um, like that's kind of, it's just like the better that they get for staff, the worse that at least I felt. Like basically, I had a really easy job when I worked in a regular school in the States. I left at 3 every day. I had like 2 hours of PPA a day. Like I did nothing. But I made a lot of money, and the kids didn't learn anything. That was the downfall. Like I had a really easy teaching life, but the kids didn't learn anything. And so it's like you have to, it's you can't have 100% of both. You do have to,
no,
like, knowing that I'm going to put a bit more time into this because it will be better for the kids. So it means that I'll have less of this. Like that's how it has to work because it's about people. It's teachers and kids. It's not just empty vessels in a chair. Like it's the
Yeah,
socialization aspect.
and you
yeah,
need to strike a balance there. I've certainly, obviously, um, a school in London that's just been brought in or is currently being brought into a multi academy trust. after the departure of their head teacher, was a really high performing school. Every single person knew that their head teacher was a bully. And that
is that the
was
one that's
one
being
of
in
the
the
ways.
news that we can't mention? I mean, if we say their
Sorry?
name, that's the one that's been in the news, like in Schools
Yeah.
Week loads and on Twitter loads. But if you mention it, they'll probably like beep it out.
Yeah.
So
And,
Can you do
I
the
just say the
initials
name.
of it,
Happen.
or is it's the one near
Beep,
around?
beep. Oh, there we go. I can't say it.
yeah. It is towards the west of the city. Let's just say that. Um,
What, like in Islington?
well, obviously, there are Islington schools where the head teachers are always interesting to discuss. But
But obviously, we're thinking
you know,
about a school in, say, I don't know, Holloway, maybe. I don't know.
ooh, yes, yeah, one of the H's definitely.
Possibly so.
Yeah,
Hackney.
yeah,
No. Sorry, I'll stop now. I'll stop now.
yeah. But that the environment there, and there's another London school whose sixth form is very famous, and again has this reputation amongst teachers in terms of the way the head teacher treats staff, and it's an extremely negative reputation. Uh, those schools, I wonder about their long-term sustainability, and obviously the first school we mentioned has already come unstuck. Um, because you do actually need some people in a school who've been round the block a bit, who aren't
Yeah.
the sort of naive,
They're the
very
foundation.
hard-working. Yeah. Um, and the problem with those people is they've all heard of these schools and they've all heard of them. They might get endless accolades in the press. They might get to the sort of, the top of the league tables, but we all really know we don't want to work for them. And I'm in a school that's, it was founded in 1957 as one of the sort of first model comprehensives. It's been running forever, and it's just always been quite good. So our latest progress 8 is plus 0.59, I think. And
Cornwall
it's just,
schools would kill for that Progress 8.
yeah. We're on the London Fringe, so it's, for us, it puts us as the highest performing non-selective in our area. And we also, in terms of raw results, we outperform the selective schools at A level. But there are a huge number of our teachers, certainly in my department, they all came from the really famous big brand schools when they burnt out.
Hmm.
I think that's what happens. You get
They all came from
they leave
the
teaching,
absolute
or
top
they
schools.
stay in teaching and go to a school that's a bit more normal, basically.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
they're very,
a
very
little bit
good.
more
That's the thing.
relaxed.
They're very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But again,
absolutely.
that's the trade-off. You're not going to have
We can
perfect
offer
behavior where they they don't even turn their head. You're not going to have the perfect behavior. Um, and the progress rate isn't going to be as high as it could be if you were to do the other things. But it's like that's the trade-off. I'd rather have a little bit more of a relaxed environment so that I can continue teaching for a longer amount of time.
Absolutely. We're not going to deliver progress 8s of over plus 1 anytime soon, or possibly anytime ever. But we are going to allow you to see your family. And as a result, this has always been the deal. And as a result, our school continues to survive and continues to thrive. And a lot of schools that have burnt very bright haven't actually burnt that long.
No. And then you get the question of, are the kids in those schools actually happy? Which is very much as we discussed before. I'm teaching them facts. I'm not teaching them to be happy. There is a wider question about attendance and kids who perhaps don't fit the box. And I was one of those kids, and I'm definitely one of those adults, and definitely one of those teachers. Are they happy at that school?
It's difficult to know. I think it probably suits. There are certain types of kids who it will really suit.
Yeah.
And again, and the school gives the impression of success continually. And the kids I've obviously the school with the best progress rate right now is Michaela. I used to teach out in West London. I encountered Michaela kids an awful lot in the local community. They did seem very happy. They were thrilled to be working that hard with this continual vision of success.
But
And some of the other local schools, their kids felt substantially less happy, partly because they existed in this world in which Michaela was the school that really believed in their kids, and they felt that their school didn't have that level of belief.
I think, but that's because I think what Mateo does really, really well is it believes in its kids 100%. And I think sometimes from the outside, I've seen some quite strict schools or schools in Cornwall who try to import things from London, and they've stopped
They just
believing in
aren't
their
very
kids.
warm.
They're not warm.
Yeah.
They don't get. They get the
Yeah,
strict.
absolutely. It is the warm, strict
Yeah,
balance that, obviously Michaela can do really well.
yeah,
Lots of schools can do it really well. But and the most successful schools do strike that balance well.
yeah.
But I know of schools where you just sort of look at them and you think, you don't really seem to like your kids that much.
Yeah, and I think that's really sad. I love teaching. I love teaching the kids. But I'm really, really strict. But the kids like my lessons because everything's calm, everything's ordered.
And because you like being there
Yeah,
as well. There is no substitute for the enthusiasm of a teacher.
yeah. And actually being good with small people who aren't fully formed yet. Although I did see on Twitter, getting back to Twitter today, someone said warm strict leads to county lines. And I was like,
Ooh,
that is a massive,
that is
massive leap.
baffling.
Yeah, and I was like,
I'm not even sure that's I don't understand where the direction that is. That's a total non sequitur.
it is. But I was like, oh, I want to get involved in this, but I've got to go and spend 2 hours moving manure for my community garden.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of shoveling shit, that very much is a tweet that will do that.
Yeah, yeah,
I warm strict leads to county lines.
yeah. It was effectively the nature of the tweet. I might have to dig it up and comment on it now. I've got more brain space, but I want to just leave the house and.
I'm not sure I could ever have enough brain space in order to understand how that logic worked.
No, because I think if you get warm strict
Was
right.
that tweeted by Discourse Bot?
No, it wasn't. It was an actual person. I presume a person.
It feels like a made-up education tweet. Something so utterly irrational.
I'm going to dig it out and stick it on a secret badger chat for you.
Thank you.
So, yeah. There is, by the way, everyone, a secret badger chat because we got moaned at too much. People said, I can't believe you're teachers. You're too weird. So we've retreated. Yeah. We retreated, retweeted, whatever, to DMs and a WhatsApp group now.
Yeah, now obviously, well, it's sort of all died down, hasn't it?
Yeah.
The Badger conspiracy. But there was a long time after that where there was this thing about, well, they now have a secret Twitter group, the sort of DMs, as being this sort of shadowy force within education. Were we do amongst those who were, apparently Tory astroturfers?
So yeah, we're Tory astroturfers who get people jobs and do stuff like that in the background.
Absolutely, we're a sort of hidden mechanism of power within education, funded by the Conservative Party. It's really weird. I've been in so many Tory astroturf groups, and they've never paid me.
Oh,
listen, if someone wants to give me money to just tweet the things that I tweet anyway, I honestly will take the money. But
me too.
For full parity, no one is paying me to tweet the things that I say. I just tweet them because I'm bored.
I'm very happy being paid by the government. Willing to provide PPE that doesn't work. That's not a problem. laptops that are full of Russian malware and don't have functioning sound cards. I can do all of that. Just give me the money.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe you're a teacher saying these things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
would. I mean, just pay me to talk about
Well,
phonics again.
I can believe I'm a teacher because I've noticed that I'm very badly paid.
Ha! But you do have a JAG, so maybe you're not badly paid. Maybe it's all the secret afterturfing you're doing.
Always the thing about multi-academy trust heads and sort of multi-academy trust teams and their Jaguars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Um,
do not have that car. I actually can't drive in this country, so
can you? But you do have like artisanal soap made
yeah,
by like
I do. Yes.
blind Tibetan nuns or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can drive in the States. I can actually drive like a two-story house because of the amount of pounds or tons or whatever that I can drive. But I'm not licensed to drive in this.
It's something
Oh,
like 30 gross tons. I know it's the weight of a light tank that Jasmine's driving license qualifies her to drive, whereas obviously we have, 16 subcategories on our driving license in
Yeah,
terms of what
basically,
we can drive.
with my normal license, I could qualify to be like an HGV driver. I could just go and
do
I
it.
take a
Way more
I
money.
take a. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it
Yeah,
though.
Jasmine not only doesn't need to do the minibus training, she's qualified to drive the school minibus towing the school.
Yeah. But yeah, that like just like get your license, basically everything except for like even like driving a city bus, you get like 6 months of training for that. But just with a regular license, you can apply to do that, and then you're driving a bus in the middle of the city. Like it's a lot more lax. A lot more people die, probably as a result of the lax rules, but much more opportunity to climb
Make
that.
money. I mean,
America, the land of opportunity and random death.
does America have any rules?
Yes.
Just
Yeah, you're not allowed Kinder eggs or cheese.
Speaking of, just that cheese is really nice, Daniel. If you want to just put some of that on the crostini.
I really want some red wine now. I'm trying to think to myself, would it be a bad
Oh
idea?
yeah,
Bear in mind.
it's out on the side. I am.
Yeah, have a glass of wine, Eugene.
We're actually drinking. We're actually drinking white at the moment. I keep thinking it's a muscadet, but it's not, is it?
It's not.
It's
It's nice, isn't it? It goes with
it's a
the cheese
Marsanne
too.
Viognier, and it's a Languedoc. Jasmine got it. It's really, really good. And one of those French whites with quite a bit of body that I think would actually go quite well with cheese.
It
Ooh,
does go well. Yeah.
what cheese is it?
Okay.
Cheddar.
It's some. No, it's a cheese from the shop that I got with the olive oil soap from. It's just like a soft cheese from Bath. Yeah,
It
from
is. It
Bath.
is from Bath. It's from the Bath Cheese Company.
Ooh, I've heard of them. They're quite nice.
That one,
Yeah,
it's a
no,
nice cheese.
it looks good. It's out on the side at the moment. It's sweating a little bit. That looks like
Proper cheese.
a one cheese board. That looks like quite a good one.
Oh, nice. Um,
Oh, can we talk about the trauma informed thing that's been going around
oh
Twitter?
God, I can't
Oh
stand
Can we? Because that's a big spat.
I
that.
can't
That's a
Is
believe
big
you're a
one.
teacher.
oh, okay. Go on, Jasmine. You're like, I mean, I've got my own opinion about trauma informed stuff, which is basically,
Go
well,
do it.
mine based. Well, the most effective treatment for support for trauma informed kids is really clear
Boundaries and rules
and,
and clear
rules, and everyone
good
else behaves really
safeguarding.
well. Yeah, good safeguarding, and actually, if everyone else is behaving well because you've got good, clear behaviour systems and behaviour support, and the kids will fit and a good teacher in front of them, they will feel held in the classroom, and then they'll have
Yep.
success and feel better about themselves, and they'll be less anxious. So basically, a well-run school is good for traumatized kids, and there are traumatized kids. But how much?
Yeah, but you don't shift best practice because of
No,
that knowledge. The
no.
knowledge isn't helpful because the best practice is always going to be the best practice.
Yeah, when I was working in special schools and I was working at the extreme end, like SCMH, whatever, I wouldn't
Uh-huh.
read the kids' backgrounds, and I was like running behaviour in a mental health unit, and I wouldn't read the kids' backgrounds because I was like, I can't have the empathy with them. I wouldn't have had it anyway, but I need to basically be the firm rock they cling to or break against, and be
Mm-hmm.
consistent. And they like me for that
You've used
because
that metaphor before. It's a very good metaphor.
it is a good metaphor because
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be that firm rock. Um, and some of them had hideous backgrounds, but they liked my teaching because I was always the same. I was
Yep.
consistent. I was
They
warm.
knew what to
I was sweet.
expect from you. That's
Yeah,
trauma informed, is being exactly the same
every day.
every
Absolutely.
day,
The
each time.
best thing for coming from chaos is having predictability.
Yes,
Yep.
seriously, it
Oh no,
really
this
is.
wasn't the one. I said we can't let the behavior of a few disrupt the many. That's what I said the last time, and then people are like, "You need relationships," and I said, "No, you can't run a school on relationships." That
No, you
got a lot
can't.
of stuff.
Our supply teachers.
Yeah,
Supply teachers are the how supply teachers do in your school. That's if you got behaviour cracked or not.
and And even I think Catherine Burbleson said this. She was like, even when if they have a supply that's there a little bit longer, even they start to struggle a bit because the kids just like, I don't know who you are. You're not doing the things that everyone else does, so it cracks the system a bit. But
Yeah,
even then, it's just like it's the consistency. When you don't do the consistency, that's the problem.
yeah,
That, that creates more trauma.
yeah. Why do you think people are so arguey about trauma informed stuff?
I think it comes from, well, one, because when you see like the more, I'm not going to call it trad behavior because that just sounds stupid, but the more prescriptive ones, where it's like you do this, you get a sanction, you do this, you get a merit. They feel like it's quite like transactional and doesn't feel like person forward.
All
So I
relationships
think,
are transactional. As an autistic person who sees everything in very much like relationships or economy, they are transactional. All relationships are transactional. You might
yeah,
make
I mean
it warm and fuzzy,
that's what
but
I think. But I
yeah,
think people, when they're thinking about behavior, they don't want to see it that way because it doesn't feel like, well, I'm a person, they're a person, I have to see them as a person first. And it's like, not in a school of 2,000 kids. You can't.
but even like
What is going to work for most kids?
yeah,
Most people.
yeah, this is it the most, and you can have like, and if everything's working really well for the most, you can have case law on the edges.
Exactly. Then you look and see, okay, what are the exceptions? And
Yeah,
why is it in this particular way for this one? No, I said
And
like
realistically, in a
school
school of
leadership means
over a
leadership for the
thousand,
whole
you
school.
will have a tiny handful of those exceptions.
Yeah, it shouldn't be many.
The
It should be
vast
a couple.
majority of kids,
They get
in
on board.
mainstream can be fully included
yeah,
within a pretty simple, robust, explicit set of
Yeah. They need to
expectations.
know what to expect. We will tell them. When we say don't shout out, it means when your teacher asks a question, you keep your hands down and they're going to call on one of you. And when they call on you, then you can answer.
yeah,
That's knowing. That's trauma informed. I'm not just, you will be called on sometimes. Your teacher will ask you to respond in this way. You don't know when it happens, but if your teacher's going to do it, they might let you know that day. Like that's the trauma informed. It's the unpredictability, it's the instability, it's the chaos, it's the threat of violence is actually the trauma. And so schools that implement trauma informed practice seem to be creating more trauma by allowing so many kids to just find all of the loopholes. That's the issue.
well, yeah, but you try and run a school in relationships, and you end up all relationships breaking down. Apart from
Yeah, because you can't.
yeah,
I can't have a individual relationship with 1,000 kids. I
no,
can't.
no,
I can't.
and like the Asbo's great phrase, you end up effective teachers in those kind of schools are warlords in failed states. That's what they are. You know.
Yeah, the thing is, like, you become. I've had to do this in a previous school, but it's just like you become the kind of person that you actually don't like
You
to.
are the
You don't
behaviour system.
become the kind.
Yes, and
Yes, and
I've
it's
been
just
that
like you
person.
can't actually be a person. It's just like stop, put your hand down. No, that's how you have
Yeah,
to be because you can't show any kind of leeway. Because with any leeway, they pounce on it because that's what kids do.
in
Yeah,
one of
and
the
I'm
schools
probably
I've
gonna get
worked
piled
in
on
the
for that.
past, individual
kids are like
departments
velociraptors.
have built their own behaviour
Yeah, the
systems.
velociraptors. That's old
Yeah,
school Twitter.
Yeah,
Raptorgate, one of the first great Twitter beefs.
I remember that. I
Yeah.
changed because I'm me. I changed
Of course,
my
he's not a
profile to a
Twitter
Raptor.
teacher anymore.
No, he's not. No.
No?
What were you going to say before I jumped on with Raptorgate? Before I tested the fence? What did you say? What were you
Yeah,
going to say?
no, I said if or when SLT become preoccupied with trying to do the best for one child, it can often be the case that they neglect or ignore the other 1,000 children they're responsible for. With a
Yes.
school of so many, you have to practice utilitarianism.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And people got
That
really
seems
upset about that.
perfectly logical.
People
Yeah,
got
because
really upset about that.
when they're in leadership, they're just useless leaders, aren't they? Because you end up with a school with absolutely no systems where no one knows what to do. Um, Meanwhile, the head teacher is spending hours in their office with three naughty students over hot chocolate, asking them how their teachers have been mean to them. It's those schools are totally dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of them. I've seen head teachers who are really, really nice and absolutely believe in the individual child, but they can't deal with all of them. So
Run a
you end
school?
up with this tiny set of edge cases while the school is not being run at all. You know, if you want to do that, work in a PRU. There are places in which that ratio is better, more conducive for that practice. But the ratios in secondary are not in mainstream. They're not conducive for it. So you can't really do that practice unless you're happy neglecting the rest of the kids. You're happy neglecting the bulk of the kids. I'm not.
But ironically, I think there's a failure of empathy to see the rest of the kids. You see the kids in front of you, those three naughty kids with hot chocolate. But
What about the rest of them?
yeah, the other, again, utilitarianism. Greatest good for the greatest number.
That's all. Because what I think about is I was the kid who I wanted to learn. My behavior was fine. Like, if the school cared about me, then I was the majority of the kids, and I was one of the exceptional ones. Like, I'll just accept that now, whatever. But most kids are just like, they just want to do well, they want to do the right thing. Worry about them, because that's the majority. And then if the other kids, if they can't get in line, then you have to find somewhere else for them, because this school is for the majority of kids who want to do well, whose parents support them, and that's most kids. I do believe that. The majority of parents that I've always talked to, they want, even if they don't know how to help their kid, they
They
want
want
to.
the kids to do well.
Yeah, no parent wakes up and says like, oh, like I mean, again, majority. There might be some. Like that's.
I have met some in my.
I
But
have
then I
too.
am at the.
It's not the
Yeah.
majority, but even
No, it's
close
not.
to it. It's a tiny handful. But most of them want their
Yeah.
kids to do well. They want to support them. They want to support you as a school to help their kid. And when you don't do that, when that's the majority, then you just let them. You just say like, I don't care about you. That's what that says. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, you don't care
Right.
about the three kids. I mean, maybe them not being in that school is the right thing for them. That's caring about them too.
I think
Yeah.
one of the problems is that, like, at least down here in Cornwall, exterior services is like it's a complete, like, it's like an apocalyptic wasteland now. Because everything's been cut back to the bone, and then they sawed the bone off. So it's like,
Yeah, I mean, I have a colleague that works in a Peru, and they don't even have a building. They kind of just go to a library sometimes and hope that it has a room.
wow,
So, like, that is a problem. But again, also, the other 997 kids, that's the thing. You
yeah,
keep those kids that really can't function in a mainstream school, they just destroy the culture, and it destroys the whole school.
yeah, and I've seen
Yeah,
that
It's a
and
happen.
we need to talk
it's a
with our,
difficult choice, but you have to make it.
and we need to fight for our colleagues in PRUs in alternative provision, to get those
Absolutely.
resources,
Yeah,
to have proper sites, because they are a really valuable and important part of the system for those kids who we can't support.
yeah,
Pretending that we can
Yep.
support them is letting down the 997 and letting down the three. Um,
Yep. Well said.
I am,
Here, here.
back to that. Yeah, back to that thing about the bulk of the kids. The bulk of the kids. really not wanting that minority of the kids to disrupt their lesson. I
Yeah.
tweeted about 4 a.m. a thread on implementation of behaviour policy.
I thought that was
And
an
one of the
amazing thread, by the way.
oh, thank you. One of the things
Just
that
saying, I did help him
appeared
plan
in
it. Sort of, not really. I was there.
she was present but uninvolved. Um, uh, but one of the things that a few people have responded to that is, you should also consult the kids. Why aren't you consulting the kids? The thing is, I know what happens when you consult the kids on behaviour policies. And what happens is they all want the majority of kids want the behaviour policies to be much harsher than
Yes.
schools end up creating them as.
Yes. Totally.
You've got 90% of kids who would happily expel 10% of the school
Yeah.
population.
Totally. And I've been in those kind of meetings with the kids doing behaviour policy stuff, and one of the quote naughty kids was going, "You need to be strict on me. You need to be strict on me. You got to be so much harder on me, so I can't get away with it." And I was like, "Well, there you go. There you go."
I remember it's an interesting amount of self-awareness to know one's lack of self-regulation.
Yeah. And like I had these naughty kids wanting to be in my class because they were like, "Yeah, but you can control us." So okay, fine. And these kind of kids got ported into my class, and I had all these kind of like kids who would not behave around the rest of the school come in and get on with it in my class.
You were the
And
behaviour set.
I was, well, yeah, and I have made a career out of teaching behaviour sets effectively, in a really kind of like calm, steady, firm, warm, occasionally boiling hot when I got irritated, way.
I mean, the thing is,
But
even if you're a strict teacher, if you're really doing the trauma things, it's like, I know he's strict, therefore I know I can't get away with this.
yeah,
I think, again, this is just me. I think people like structure. They like knowing what to expect, even if they're
yeah,
not like a kid that has trauma. Like just knowing when I
think
show up to
all of
work, this is
us
going to
like
happen.
this.
This, and this. Like it's
yeah,
a human thing to know
yeah.
what's.
It's nice. It's less stressful.
I always, back when we were, our primary job was to entertain the kids.
Oh God, those
Um,
dark days.
yeah. Do you remember how many lessons were based on the concept of surprises? So you'd do now, do now a starter a bell task of guess what's in the box, and you'd shake and rattle the box. And in some way, this was relevant to English teaching. Can't remember the connection now. But it was every lesson had to be constantly premised on the unknowable.
Yeah,
Um, and it was really interesting working. I was doing my PGCE at the time, and I was placed in this completely dysfunctional, totally chaotic school run by people who were incredibly stupid. And
don't hold back,
I
Daniel.
was
Don't hold
in
back.
this in this piece of training on dealing with students with ASD and supporting them within the school. And it was like, we have a lot of students with ASD in this school. And it was like, are you aware that every part of that training completely contradicts everything the school believes is best practice in designing lessons?
Was that the school that you went to that was near where I grew up?
Yes, well, the school that I worked in that was near when you grew up was actually near where you grew up, I think, was my last school. And that was the school that was near. Is this the school that was near Michaela?
Yes, in the same
Which
borough.
yeah. No, these aren't the same schools. The school that I had a PGCE placement in was a school south of the river.
Okay. Because I did one of my PGC placements in a really dysfunctional school, and again, similar thing, and it just broke me, and I stopped. I dropped out of my placement, which I think, looking back now, knowing that I'm autistic, a lot of it was just a kind of complete cognitive dissonance of like, teach this way in a way it's really ineffective and behaviour is chaotic. But that whole kind of thing of
Really
like,
ineffective. Behaviour is chaotic and it's entirely random. It's
yeah,
surprise mechanics through your
yeah,
lessons.
yeah.
I will
Yeah.
say when I
So
was doing my placement in you do middle school and high school. So it's Key
Oh,
Stage 3 and
actually,
then Key
sorry,
Stage 4 and
sorry to
5.
interrupt you, Jasmine.
What?
Before I forget,
Daniel.
does anyone remember the plenary generator?
that rings a vague bell.
Oh my God!
So it was yeah. At the end of a lesson, towards the end of a lesson, you decide on your last activity in that lesson. Running a PowerPoint that cycled through 1,000 frames a second. It was like a slot machine. And then you'd hit space and it would give you the last task of the lesson.
That sounds
That was
actually stress-inducing.
mad.
Oh my
That was
god.
Oh my
completely mad.
God.
I saw that all the time.
Oh my god. So my normal resting heart rate is 54, and I'm just taking my beat now, and just you discussing that has put my heart up to 70. That's the damage.
It's the feeling of adrenaline with the gamble of what will happen next in your lesson.
Yeah, it's just actually like, someone who doesn't like change. Just the idea of that is just absolutely increased my heart rate significantly from 54 to 70. It's like, I can be
Mm.
Now,
I can be like wrestling and my heart rate won't get that high.
You
Oh.
have a really
Sorry, I
slow
interrupted
heart.
you,
That
Jasmine.
sounds wrong.
No, I'm just very, very fit.
No, I mean it was funny.
Yeah. Almost
That's a
dead.
fit thing to have a heartbeat of 54.
Yeah,
It is fit to have a lower heartbeat, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, mine's not high. Mine was just normal and average. At 54 sounds like your heart's not beating at all.
You do
Oh,
realise that we're talking to someone who is a cross between a piece of Greek sculpture and a Tom of Finland drawing. He's not actually entirely alive.
you are talking to someone.
Here's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
last Duchess painted on the wall. But no,
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, I always think about when I was doing my placement for middle schools with year nines, and then my advisor, she said, like, basically she thought my lessons were boring, and need to spice them up. But then she also said, she was like, I know that for a kid like my son who's autistic, he would absolutely love your classroom because he knows exactly what to do. He knows what's coming. He knows, like, there isn't like a bunch of group work where he has to try to, like, whatever. And she was like, that is a perfect environment for him. So like, it's not for me. It's boring, but it's fine. She's like, but it's absolutely perfect for him. And so I
I
think
don't
about that a
like
lot.
your
I think,
lessons, but it's the lesson I'd want my son to have, is a really
yeah.
bizarre piece of feedback.
That's mental feedback.
But the
That's
thing
the
is,
whole
I
thing.
think about that,
I
and it's
tell
just
people
like I think about the
you'd be
kids
happy
who,
sending your child to the school you work in, and if not,
yeah.
something
I
needs
don't
to
know. It's
change
just
in your school. You had something. I
I don't
would
know.
be happy sending my child to your classroom. However, something needs to change.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, she was just like, vary it a bit because it's not only a classroom of autistic kids, is what she was saying. But she was like, that absolutely is perfect for him. And I think about that. Like when I think about my instruction, I'm like, okay, the kids who absolutely need certain things, can I put that at the center and have that be the pinpoint so that they will be successful in my lesson? If you think of them as like your target, the kids that maybe struggle to read, the kids that struggle with writing, those kids, like if you put in the supports to help them, it actually helps everyone else too, especially if you
you
have mixed ability.
you should be a Senko.
I would be very good at it, but I
I
do
think
like
you'd be
what I
amazing at
do.
it.
Yeah.
I think you
Aw.
would. I think there's a lot of paperwork, but I think in terms of actually the most important thing for a Senko is to have control of teaching and learning in school, or have a lot of input into it, because
Yeah.
really, really, I mean, I hate that phrase, quality first teaching, but basically, yeah, what's best
What does quality
practice?
first teaching mean again?
Just
Remember that
being,
one? That
yeah,
was a thing.
yeah, as opposed
I'm
to
gonna say
Good.
something.
Yeah, we got in a lot of trouble for that argument.
All
quality
of the
second
specs
teaching.
here are the big ones.
Quality
I'm
first teaching.
noticing.
Fighting this thread.
What is quality second teaching? What's quality last teaching? What is low quality first teaching? I don't know.
Low quality.
Low quality first.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I just don't like that phrase because it doesn't mean anything. Again, as someone who's like, what does that mean? Basically, a good Senko should have lots of input into teaching and learning, because if everyone's getting taught really well by good well-trained, knowledgeable teachers who are getting the kids and making necessary adjustments, that's your great progress 8. Boom, right there.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
I,
and
I think I
also
think I would be good at doing Senko. In the States, it's an entirely different qualification, so I was never going to do it. But I think
It
it's
is an additional qualification here, I believe,
it is, yeah,
Brent, on top of a teaching qualification.
yeah. It's
Oh, I'm
NASENCO.
not going to pay for that. Ugh.
They are going to change it as part of the green paper, because right now it's a NASENCO qualification, but they are going to change it
Mm.
into one of those MPQs.
Oh, I'll do that
Into
then.
the NPQs. We're requiring a lot of NPQs these days,
Yeah,
aren't we? I've seen
yeah.
another couple of them that sort of feel like they're already covered by the existing NPQs. And I'm feeling real FOMO that I don't have a single NPQ.
Um,
Yeah, I think my next one, I was going to do leading literacy, but then I looked at the course and I was like, I know all of this already. So it'll be NPQ SL to senior leadership.
I
That's
would,
definitely the one
Ooh,
that I
nice.
do.
yeah,
I was
I'd do one of
considering
those.
NPQLT. And one of the people I spoke to about it said, one of the things you'll have to prepare for is that you will know all of this course already. But I
I had the
sort of
same thing
feel
with the
that it might be a
NASENCO.
useful badge in one's career. I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think. I remember getting onto the fast track for teaching and doing all these leadership things, and it was like useful badges. And then the NASENCO, I knew it all, but as a hoop, I have legally obliged to get through. Um,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
no one's legally obliged to do any of the NPQs. They just
no, but
exist.
I think you
Actually,
will be
is
legally obliged to the
UH
MPQ
historically
Senko.
legally required?
oh, okay. Well, if some school pays me to do it, I'll do it. But I also want to be like half TNL or something. Like I don't just want to do send. That's not where my
No,
heart is.
Yeah,
but I think
obviously they're no longer schools aren't being charged for it.
no.
However, my school is a bit skeptical, and I think quite rightly so. Has been a bit skeptical because of the idea of loads of people doing NPQs that don't actually add any value for the school. And there is a reasonable question that could be asked in that why would I be doing NPQLT as I already lead teachers without complaint?
For your career development, so you can like have a badge. I think
Yeah, so
actually
for my career of development, which isn't of use to the school,
no.
and would be of use to me personally outside that, and there is, what you're doing it on basically is directed time, the bulk of it. So I sort of
Yeah, I
feel if
see
I
that.
was senior leadership, my question would be, yeah, why would I want you to do this
Mm,
bit of self improvement that adds no value to us,
I
but
think
takes away capacity from us to use you?
I think part of me
That's
as a
the kind
leader
of
would be
thing that will
going,
get me,
yeah, get
cancelled.
cancelled. But I think as a leader, I'd be like, do it anyway because it's just you may learn something you can apply to us. But then I'm quite like
Yeah,
that. I like learning for the sake of learning,
I
right.
and I
agree.
We are
encourage other
teachers.
people as well. Yeah,
I,
well, yeah,
I agree. I think that the thing that I'd really like to see is funded master sabbaticals.
yes,
I
Oh
feel
definitely.
that
man, give me my master's in
yeah,
literature. Ugh.
I've got one of
absolutely.
those.
Same here. Masters in Shakespeare Study, KCL. Absolutely desperate for it. Um, when I say, the problem with a lot of English teachers, I don't know a huge amount of English, and it's true across the whole thing. It's not that they're unenthusiastic in general about the subject. It's that our education was sort of curtailed too quickly.
Yes,
And now our knowledge is really inflexible. It's very much like, encyclopedic knowledges of 15 poems and for some reason an inspector calls. And there's no skill, there's no contextual framework. Or there's a bit of one that someone vaguely remembers from 5, 10 years ago, whenever they did their degree, that sort of fits these slightly random, slightly arbitrary four texts in the canon, and they just become the canon. And I think
the can needs to slide
actually
out of the cannon.
being able to step away from teaching for a bit and look at your subject again would be really invaluable to teachers' personal development. And
Yeah.
while we're spending all of this time doing NPQs that basically are, some of them, as far as I can see, are the course materials that are EduTwitter itself. You know,
Ooh,
the discourse we're all engaged in
Snap.
just to, teach us the discourse we already do. Why don't we actually take some time away and talk about our subject discipline and talk about actually the what of what we're teaching rather than
The what of the what,
continual
how,
focus
why.
of the how?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, I like that. Oh, we've actually run over. We're meant to finish
Oh
like
dear.
6 minutes ago, but I'm actually having loads
Oops.
of
Oh
fun.
well.
So, Jasmine, I would say there's a massive crossover between literacy and SEN, and you get literacy right in your
Yes.
school, you probably get SEN
Yes.
right.
I'm telling
Um,
you, whoever employs me to be their literacy person, that school's progress rate is probably going to shoot. I'm not going to actually. It's going to improve.
No,
That's what I will say.
I know who's employed you to be their school's literacy person, and that school's progress rate is already +1.
So imagine.
Their progress rate is not
so
going to shoot up.
no, it is. It is. It's going to become +2. It's going to be like Michaela. Like they're going to be renaming school Jasmine, Jasmina, something like that.
Jasmine, yeah, is already in one of the
Yeah,
top schools.
subject knowledge and literacy. I'm telling you, one, I have excellent subject knowledge, so I can teach them that. But then how to build that into the actual, just like being able to read and write and discuss, man, unstoppable. Just
That's it. That's it. Okay, so I think let's leave it there so I can get some wine, or possibly go and do a workout, and take some picture of myself reading books or working out. But that's a
We look
really
forward
niche
to the
reference.
photos.
This is it, yeah. If people are listening to this, no one listens to this. Let's be honest. They're gonna listen to it and go, "What the hell is it?" I mean, I just do it because it just amuses me. So anyway, what is your personal heresy that you said it on Twitter? It would probably get you cancelled. Who wants to go first?
Jasmine?
you have to go first, Daniel. I don't know.
My personal heresy that if I said it on Twitter, it would probably get me cancelled. I don't know because I say so
Oh,
many
I
of the
have
heresies
mine.
on Twitter. And
I have
Inspector
mine.
Cool and Inspector Calls has never taught anyone anything. It certainly doesn't teach empathy. Let Jasmine go ahead.
This one's actually pretty bad. I think I'm gonna say the majority. No, I can't say that because that's actually really bad.
Just text it to us on the secret group.
I'm putting in a secret group.
Hmm?
That's what I have to say.
Running it into the WhatsApp. Right, let's have a look at the WhatsApp.
What's Jasmine saying?
I'm in another WhatsApp that's
Is it a secret?
that's
Is there
called
more
something really
secret?
inappropriate. That's just between myself and two of my female colleagues.
Okay, it's a secret WhatsApp. I actually agree with what you just said, Jasmine. And a secret WhatsApp.
Oh god, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. So my educational heresy that would get me cancelled. Most teachers not very smart, possibly quite thick.
I like that. I mean,
Jasmine's
What I said
educational
was,
heresy is completely
I said
unknowable.
teachers can be a hindrance to progress.
yes,
I
a very,
find
very
that a
gentle
lot.
way of saying
I'm
it.
like, you don't understand what you're doing. What you're saying is wrong. You're telling your kid who actually has the right idea that they're wrong. You're telling them the wrong things.
Oh god, yeah,
You are
that
wrong.
one's really interesting. I've seen teachers correct students who are perfectly correct,
Yes,
and just confuse them further. It happens a lot in literature where teachers' understandings of texts can be bonkers. Like the one that I keep hearing about around London is that Macbeth doesn't really love Lady Macbeth.
what?
Yeah, I know a few
Yes.
teachers who teach their students that Lady Macbeth is just
Why?
manipulative and Macbeth is trying to get the power away from her when he doesn't when she dies and he finds out he doesn't actually care. He's excited because now he can have the power.
What? Have they
I,
not read that speech? Have they
what
not
he
read
says exactly
tomorrow and
is there
tomorrow
would
and
yeah
oh,
there would be time for such a word as this. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day,
Just
and
saying,
all our
this
yesterday
is the third time I've heard this
falls
speech in the
away to
last
dust
2
and death.
days. Just saying that.
Yeah, no, I'm very. I've just done Act 5 with my students. I'm very up on this one.
I think the best performance of that speech I've seen has been Patrick Stewart's one. When
Patrick Stewart's one, originally an Almeida production, wasn't it? That Rupert Gould as director.
yeah,
It's then become the 2015 or 2016 film of it.
yes, and it was just he veers between. I like the fact it was like kind of communist Russia, but he veers
Yeah,
between being so angry at her that she's done this and being really depressed about it as well. It was really a really
yeah.
powerful way
It's
of doing that. I
all of
thought.
my
What's
year
the point of
tens.
being alive if you're not here with me?
Yeah,
That's
It's sheer nihilism because he's done this partly for his partner in greatness.
because he
It
loves
is,
her.
they elevate each other to the very top.
who am
And
I
then,
without you? Nothing. It's
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so his first thing is, well, actually, now I think about it, she would have died anyway, and so will I. And so he starts with this castle will laugh to scorn a siege. He starts off preparing to absolutely sit there and weather this from a point of real strategic advantage. And then he goes, well, might as well put my armor on, go out, be outnumbered, just going to die today.
yeah.
Don't know how I'm going to
Yeah,
die, but
But
it's
no,
time to be on the
I
battlefield
know,
because there's no point in another tomorrow.
I know multiple people who have taught many cohorts of children that he doesn't love her and that he's glad that she's dead because he has the power for himself now.
And they're
oh,
millions.
that's wrong.
That is just such a misunderstanding of one of the. I'm not going to say simpler Shakespeare plays because the truth about Macbeth is Macbeth endlessly
Complex.
rewards endless analysis, has fathomless depth. But one of the Shakespeare plays that's quite easy to understand on that kind of level.
Yeah. Okay. So, so Daniel, your heresy is that a lot of teachers aren't very good at teaching.
No,
Jasmine's
so they don't know their subject. I think a lot of teachers can be good at teaching and know nothing about their subject, which
Yep.
I've
They
seen
can
before.
cold call, but you can't cold call your way to a grade 9.
ooh, boom.
Absolutely, yeah, that was a controversy. That got Stuart Locke to block me, didn't it? Despite the fact that it was your tweet, Jasmine.
Well, we're all blocked by Stuart Locke, so what does it matter anyway?
Are you blocked now?
I've been
I'm not
blocked,
talking
yeah,
more.
since that.
I've had loads of people start following me in the last few days since I started like posting those pictures. I don't know why.
Because you're
Big burly
your
man with the
edgy
book.
Twitter pinup.
Yeah, apparently so. Anyway, I blame Tabitha. What's my heresy? Oh, I don't know. I think a lot of discourse around autism in schools is wrong. But I actually think that people who are really successful in schools make bad teachers. And I say
Ooh.
that as a kid
Ooh.
who was really unsuccessful at school,
I said
and I'm
this
actually,
earlier. I said most teachers have never actually
yeah,
failed, so they don't understand what it's like to fail. And so it's
to
important that
struggle.
you feel
It's a
Yeah,
sort
something.
of
No, it's
form of
not.
expertise blindness, isn't it?
Yeah.
yes,
I wasn't
yeah.
bad in school. Like I got the set of GCSEs. My A
I got
levels weren't bad. I got into a Russell group. Less said
that's
about
good.
that, the better.
I got chucked out top set in English. Um,
Ooh, how did you do that?
Oh,
looking back.
Tom Rogers, I think he's going to tell us to get off.
Oh, is he? Okay, fine. We better get
I don't know
off.
if Tom's here
Sorry,
now.
Yeah, no,
sorry.
Oh.
this is now
Oh,
a
he said
group call,
no.
not
Oh, never
radio
mind. Hi,
show.
Tom.
No. Hi, Tom. Sorry, we've gone off. We've completely gone off on like a massive tangent.
Yeah, we're
About
15 minutes over now, aren't we?
yeah, we are. We should have got off, but we're having too much fun discussing stuff. Maybe this will be the most downloaded thing next month. I
Just
keep
like
getting like
Tucker Bants.
yeah.
And it's one of those
I keep
things
getting
where
the
no
most
one
downloaded thing.
appreciates it at the time, but in future, and the
It
sort
will
of
become
Great
canon.
Gatsby sales figures in
Yeah, we're
future,
going to be.
or indeed the yellow wallpaper. In future, it will be viewed as a Teacher Talk Radio masterpiece.
No, what it's going to be is they're going to have an MPQ SL in which they just play this. This will be it. Not the entirety of it, and then at the end they go, right, so most of you are probably rubbish. Hands up if you are good at school. You're not good teachers. So go, just leave the room now.
I'm not going to, because I think I'm a decent enough teacher. You know, our metrics are fine. They're better than everyone else's. So I'm not going to necessarily agree with you on that heresy. But I do think there is an element to which, and I know I have it myself, teachers can have massive expertise blindness on success as those for whom success came very easily.
Yes.
Yeah. My thing is, like, it came easily because I worked so hard. So it wasn't like I just got, my A's because I just did nothing. Like, I actually did work really
I was
hard.
lazy and
I also
clever.
I wasn't. I gave up way too much as a young person for what I did. But so like I have both. I worked really hard and I did well. So I know, and even when I did work hard, there was one time where I didn't do well, and so I know what it's like to fail, and I keep that in. Um, I use that. I wrote a blog about that back in the day.
Yeah, I might go and read it. My other heresy. I had another heresy there. Oh, I've completely forgotten it now. Damn it. Oh well, fine. I think that's probably a good place to like leave things.
Yes.
So we're like 60 minutes over.
Oh,
We're
you
completely off.
heresy.
Go on.
One last heresy to leave you with. If it is the GCSE that is killing take up of your subject at A level, you are not good enough at teaching that GCSE.
Oh,
Oof. Knife. Absolute knife for the heart of like a stake for the heart of some teachers.
Yeah,
that is
absolutely. English
brutal.
language can be a completely crap GCSE. I'm not denying that at all. It should not impact your ability to get students in your A level courses.
Oh, you know what? That is absolute heresy right there.
Yeah, I think we need to leave on that one.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
bombshell.
it. Absolute. Like, drop the mic there. We will be back in the new year, I presume, unless they edit this down to like literally us going, hi, bye.
Hi, hello, I have cheese.
That is pretty much it. Thank you, you two. You've been wonderful. Leave us your cheese. I'm going to go and make an omelette, and probably lift some weights or something like that. I don't know. My kids are all out. They're all like gone to the Hall for Cornwall, which is our nearest large theatre, which is like 60 miles away. But I am living.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. I am living like literally. I can see the Lizard, which is the most southerly point of England from my house. So there we go. On that note, it's been fun.
And your house exists in black and white, constantly moody skies, and is flooded periodically by great surging tides.
Yeah, and occasionally a guy runs past on a horse because, like, that Poldark guy, he just rides past on the horse every single time. It's like no matter what direction he goes in, he's got to ride a horse past the sea.
Yeah, there are 5 children who aren't actually 5 children. They're 4 children and a dog, who are constantly catching smugglers in your lighthouses.
Yes, that's true as well. And they say amazing things like "golly gosh," and you're full of spunk.
Golly gosh.
Absolutely. They live off a diet of radishes and beetroots, and one of them is non-gender conforming, and everyone is really misogynistic about this.
Yes, totally. My kids actually really like Enid Blyton. So
Kids really do.
yes.
And I'm relaxed about that. I mean, obviously, there's some stuff in Enid Blyton that, including in the Famous Five, that is racist.
Yes,
But
and
the total class snobbery and the ludicrousness of it.
Yeah.
The terrible prose style. They're so badly written. I think doesn't get in the way of kids enjoying and engaging with
like
the
Harry Potter.
story of Daring Do.
Yeah, like Harry Potter, in fact.
Yeah.
Is that heresy? I can't tell any more of heresy anymore.
Probably.
Well, I think we're all allowed to slam J.K. Rowling now. Racism in Harry Potter. Interesting one,
That's for another show.
I always think
That's another show.
the fascinating thing about Harry Potter is that it has gender-neutral changing rooms and bathrooms.
Does it?
Yes.
No,
so
the girls' toilets were Moni Myrtle. That's a girls' toilet.
That is a girls' toilet, which of course two boys spend a lot of their time in, which I believe is the greatest of all fears. But the prefect's toilet is gender neutral, and the Quidditch changing rooms are gender neutral. Not only are they gender neutral, they also have showers in. So there's a reference fairly early on that Wood, in the second novel, that Wood is attempting to drown himself in the showers, which is said by Angelina Johnson, who of course was in the changing rooms with Wood. And indeed, there are interactions towards the end of the series between Ginny and Harry in the Quidditch changing rooms. They do have gender-neutral changing rooms. It's very Starship Troopers, actually, in terms of gender-neutral changing rooms with communal showers.
That was a great movie.
Yeah.
Starship Troopers.
Yep.
So, on that bombshell, that absolute heresy, we are now like 21 minutes over. The lawyers are probably panicking somewhere. It has been fun. I'm going to start a Twitter fight over whether Warm Strict leads to county lines or not. On that note,
I will join you.
thank you so much. I will see you on Twitter.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of hours. Well, at least, yeah.
You've been listening to Teachers
Bye.
Talk Radio.
Bye.
Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
You're still there, Daniel? As off? Shall I end it before the beat?